Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. I'm Dr. Darrell Wolfe, and today's show is 5G in my city with Gary Fong. Can you believe it? 5G in my city? Go figure. Go figure that we are the first city in Canada to be, what can I say, the guinea pig of 5G, and it would be in my city. You know what? Life is funny sometimes, but this one is not too funny. And you're going to find out why you don't want 5G in your city. You're going to find out why you better not be on the phone or watching TV, that you better be out there trying to protect your city to stay more green. Today's show hits close to home for Gary and I. Our home is Kelowna, British Columbia, and our mayor has elected us to be the new 5G city of Canada. We get to represent the whole of Canada. We get to be the experiment. Now, whether you believe this or not, our mayor actually says that, you know what, there'll be 5G on Bernard, which is the main street downtown where all the restaurants are and where everybody goes. And you know why he did it? So that they could monitor garbage collection and the traffic downtown. Now, we know liar, liar, pants on fire, or he's not a liar and he hasn't done his homework. And guess what? If you look at all the anti-science, that's not true. Okay. And if you look at that, 5G has never ever gone through proper testing. And why? Because they could never do that, because it would show that it's a weapon of war. It hurts bacteria, it hurts cells, it can actually cause eye damage, it can cause sterility. Are you getting this yet? Well, guess what? It is my total pleasure of having my guest, Gary Fong, who is a local photographer and entrepreneur and has been recently speaking out about his ordeal with the recent bombardment of 5G in our beautiful city. And understand something. I am going to give my mayor the benefit of the doubt. But if you've been watching the news, you'll find out that mayors are making the worst decisions throughout North America when it comes to 5G, okay? And when it comes to COVID. I mean, it's like every city has their own wacky rules. And guess what? These are just rules. They're just guidelines. They're not laws. Oh, yeah. So this is the way it's going to be, eh? They're just going to steamroll over all of us because there's not enough of us. Good day, Gary. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, it's a pleasure. You know, as soon as I saw your video, and everybody, what we're going to do is we're going to have Gary's video at the end of this show. Okay, so if you haven't seen it and you missed it, then you're going to understand that, guess what? We can all do our part, okay, in helping against this, what? Smart technology. Do your part. Get smart against this smart technology. So, Gary, why did you get involved? Why did you start standing up for this? Why did you do the video, and why are you asking questions?
Well, it was interesting. I saw in Kelowna Now on May 28th, it said that Kelowna was going to be the pilot program, Smart City Technology. And, the mayor, Colin Basran, was saying, this is an exciting opportunity. And I thought, that's just really terrible PR, notwithstanding the health effects, but the PR of a town whose primary industry is tourism. There's a lot of debate whether 5G is safe or not, and we know what side that you are on. But notwithstanding that, there are a lot of people who are terrified of 5G, and there's a lot of bad. Plus, there's a chorus of cities that are now rolling back and putting moratorium on the rollout, and that momentum is growing daily, which is wonderful to see. So here comes our mayor declaring us basically as the new Wuhan. Now, before Wuhan, 5G, I remember thinking, I've seen some YouTubes with dead bees at the base. I've seen YouTubes with birds, dropping in mid-flight. But it wasn't as big of a concern because it hadn't hit front and center of the news until Wuhan. And even then, it took a while before the so-called conspiracy theorists started to tie the two things together, coronavirus and the first rollout of 5G. But it was wonderful to see that if you do pilot pilot program cities for 5G, two results come up: Wuhan and Kelowna. So I just couldn't believe that the mayor would do something like that. To think the benefit would be to study traffic patterns, pedestrian habits, garbage collection, public transport, at the risk of the possible health and damage of the residents of the city, but plus also the crush that we would get to our tourism.
Well, maybe
And
if I can say this, Gary, maybe the mayor doesn't understand 5G yet. Maybe the mayor's been too busy. What do you think the odds are?
Well, I did have a discussion with him, and he points to Safety Code 6. And that's his basically, you know what, I'm okay. Federal government says it's okay. And so my job has been to inform him of all the problems with Safety Code 6 and why it doesn't have reasonable limits. It completely ignores 5G within the document. So to say that 5G is the reason that he can justify this, I'm letting him know that 5G has flaws. Take a look at my bullet points. And if you don't look further into it, then there's a difference between negligence and willful negligence. Willful negligence is when you know you could have done something about it and you chose not to.
So,
All I'm asking you to do is read Safety Code 6 and then
what
just say, we should wait. That's all I'm asking.
what is Safety Code 6?
So Safety Code 6 is Canada's de facto standard issued by the government for safety limits. It's actually to protect workers, but it's now everyone's kind of like clung to it because it's the only thing anyone can point to. So you ask anybody in telecommunications, you ask anybody in municipal government, they'll all say Safety Code 6. Safety Code 6 is really not valid because it was last updated in 2009. In the test parameters, it limits the exposure to 6 minutes. It says that nerve stimulation and tissue heating occurs at 1 megahertz. And of course, we know that 5G is up to 300,000, it's 300 gigahertz. So it's hundreds of thousands of times past that limit. There's so many problems with Safety Code 6. I actually did 2 videos on it on YouTube, actually one in French, because I want the Eastern Canadians to understand how faulty this is. It has 46 footnotes, and in those footnotes, they're screaming of warning of danger. And I just thought it was so odd that the Safety Code 6 is very vague in, what it says, but then they would put all the worst evidence against them in the footnotes as if no one was going to look at the footnotes.
Well,
So these are all the things that I'm putting forward to the mayor to say, look, you're a smart guy, you got elected mayor. I know you can read. Just read these problems with Safety Code 6. And if you don't like them, then just say, I want to call in some experts. I want to put together a study group. Let's get to the bottom of this. He didn't respond until people started getting hurt. And I'm
what do you
sure
mean?
that you.
What do you mean people started getting hurt?
Well, I started getting so many different comments, even from some people that weren't initiated in the controversy of this pilot program, but they were saying, and I put this on my YouTube, they were saying that they were the most in common was the migraine headaches and the joint pain. But yesterday I got people that were showing me their eyes. It was pretty actually gruesome how their eyes. One guy said that the outer layer of his cornea was starting to strip away. Um,
Now, where
I
does
don't
he
know.
where does he live? Does he live downtown near the 5G or?
Yes, yes.
So
All of these people.
all of these people either work or they live in the area?
Well, actually, oddly enough, very, very close, or they frequent the 300 block.
Okay.
In fact, I know one of the baristas at Starbucks, she had to leave because she was getting boils on her skin, much like shingles. They're running along the nerves. So she had to quit, but she was getting lightheaded, but she started having these really painful lesions on her skin that were very shingles in nature. And I'm sure the cause of that is radiation exposure in many times. I'm not saying we haven't examined this patient, but
Well,
there is.
I think what they're going to find out is this is only, it's a domino effect, right? And the longer that people are actually exposed to this, the more underlying damage. And here's the big thing that people don't get. 5G has never been properly tested, because if they did it, they could not roll it out, because we know that they used it was used as a weapon of war, the same type of technology. Now, the other thing is that people won't feel it, and then they'll find out their chronic illnesses or illnesses they've never had before are just going to start popping up, and it's going to take. The thing is the way the government works is until there's a lot of damage, nobody's even going to take a look at it. But why would we be putting up a technology that nobody wants to do a real study on? I mean, there could be an answer here.
Yeah, and I think this is just speculating, but one would think, let's just go backwards, because I write movies, I'm a fiction writer. If I were to say, I want to test something that hasn't been tested, and let's go back to what Céline Flamont from Brussels said. She specifically said, I will not allow my people to be guinea pigs for profit. Now, let's take the word guinea pigs, and then let's just see what happened with this pilot program on Bernard. They say it's a single block. And Bernard, there's a BMO bank, there's a HSBC, there's, right?
Yeah.
There's 3 banks and a number of stores. To say that they're going to monitor traffic patterns, trash collection, public transport pickup and drop-off sites, I don't even think there's a bus. No, there's not, because I had an office on 269 Bernard. So all of that's completely garbage. But they say that they're going to cordon off this block. Okay? Then, and that was on June 2nd that they activated when people started getting hurt. What did they do on June 29? They block it to vehicular traffic. Now, if I were a person who wanted to have guinea pigs, what I would do is I wouldn't want to have an area where cars would drive by and you goose it up. And then, you find later that he crashed on Harvey. You'd want to keep them in a petri dish. Now, this is just my science fiction kind of world. Let's just say I'm Dr. Evil, and I want to roll this thing out, but I have no evidence. I'm just picturing myself sitting in front of, a console, and I got my hand on the volume knob and I'm cranking it up. And it's like, oh, we're at 2,000, milliwatts per square meter. Oh, Granny fell over. Okay, let's mark that down. Now let's see when we can get the young people. I mean, this is just speculation and all kind of, horror science fiction fun. But why would they block off that area to cars when it was supposed to be a traffic study?
I got something for you, Gary.
Yeah.
There's a little restaurant down there called Mia Moro. You've seen that one? Okay.
Of course I have, yes.
Yeah, the gelato restaurant. Anyways, I eat there probably 4 or 5 times a week here, because
I love the owner. He's a nice guy. I just saw him a couple days ago.
Yeah,
right.
Petro. Anyways, he's got for one thing, he's got the best gelato, and it's all organic and it's vegetarian, right. And nobody makes it like him. But that's not the reason why I go there. I was there last night. And I get a salad bowl this big, okay? And I have a salad from him that if I went anywhere else, it would cost me a fortune, but I don't do that. I go because it's just amazing, the salad he makes. I mean, I eat a salad every night, probably 4 or 5 nights a week down there, because, probably if it would feed a family of 4 or 5, right?
Wow.
But the reality is I just love the atmosphere and everything like that. So I got to tell you this. So not yet last night, but 3 days ago. All right, you're gonna love this one. So me and you were talking, and it was about that they wanted to do this so that they could watch how garbage pick up and all this stuff. Guess what? In 10 minutes, the garbage truck came by. I'm not making this up. Okay, I wish I would have taken a video, but I never thought about it. They came by twice, and they walked, and they went and grabbed one of the garbage cans, took a bag out, put it in the truck, drove down the street. Then they came back 5 minutes later. I wish I would have videoed this. And then they went, and the second time in 5 minutes, they come back around the block, and the next garbage can down, they open it up and they take the garbage out. Now, I don't know. It didn't dawn on me until later, this whole thing, and I just thought that was really weird. But anyways.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on down there.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things. And it's the craziest thing, this is probably one of the most beautiful places, the Okanagan Valley, especially Kelowna, in North America. Forget Canada. And
Right.
then, I really want to give the mayor the benefit of the doubt. And I would really like to see the mayor come on and do a show with me and you so that we could let everybody know in the whole community that he has our best interests and that he's got a reason for this, and he can show that none of the people that voted him in are actually going to be injured by this.
It's not like I haven't tried.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, tell me what do you? I know you said you talked. Did you talk to him? You talked to him.
No, he gave me his staff members that I had a meeting with, and there's a lot to have been said about that. But when I told him about the injuries happening, he said, "I don't know why people are getting hurt. After all, this is just 4G LTE, which is what everybody has on their phones." And he said, "I would really like for you to come and see my two guys, which is Jazz and Andreas." They were kind of the project leaders for this program, and I, went in there and I just basically let them talk, um, in which they gave me the bullet points would be, they said there is no 5G anywhere in Kelowna. There will not be for years, 5 to 10. They literally said that. I took contemporaneous notes, and then I emailed my notes back to them to have them, verify it like you do in a deposition, right? You
Yeah.
read it and then you verify it. They changed that to say that there is no 5G anywhere in Kelowna. There doesn't appear to be anytime soon. They gave some, and I said, well, why doesn't the mayor then just go say, um, it's not 5G. It's always been 4G. And they said, well, that's a thing with Rogers. They like to be seen as progressive. They'd like to be seen as the fifth generation of cellular technology. So they would rather that moniker be put to this pilot program. And I said, well, is this worth all the vitriol that this office is getting? And they actually said it's really not that bad. In fact, there's a lot of positive response to it. And I said, like what? And they said, well, for example, the paramedics have been thrilled about having the ability to arrive on the scene and know in advance, what happened. And I said, well, I used to work in emergency medicine. I worked in an emergency room, and I understand that emergency medicine is a triage situation. You have to think on your feet. You have to be very fluid and assess the situation on the spot. It's not going to be like a school bus hit a bicycle at 21 miles an hour, grab the extra ball of gauze. It's not like that. That's not how people in emergency medicine think. And I think the other thing that was really kind of crazy was they kept insisting that there's no 5G, when in fact I had already received a number of photographs from a 5G installer who was working overtime during the shutdown, saying, why am I working so much installing these radios? Am I an essential service? And then he took pictures of the 5G equipment and says, I don't even want to be around this garbage. So it was just really a not super productive meeting. It was informative as to understanding that they were going to double down. Um, but I said, this thing's not going to disappear.
Well, do
Um,
you think they'll give you a legal document stating that there is no 5G and that there will be no 5G for years? Can you ask that of them? Can you get that from
they
them?
wouldn't even. I asked them to have the mayor just say that, and they said, well, we will talk to our communications team and find out. And I said, comm teams, I'll write the speech out for you. Hi, my name is Colin I'm the mayor, and I hear that people are getting injured. Please be, feel comforted that there is no 5. That's all he needs to say. There is no 5G. There's not going to be any 5G. He can't say that because it's not true, because I know that there's equipment being installed on rooftops pretty much as we speak.
So would
So
you say they're not telling the truth then? That they're
I'm
actually
100%,
so,
100% sure they're not telling the truth
so
about many things.
these people have to be paid a lot of money because I'd need a lot of money to have to lie. So or maybe they just don't think they can get a job somewhere else.
Hard to tell,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah,
So
that's
you were
speculation.
also talking about there was a tower that was supposed to go up. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled about that. Well, there's one on Spears Road, From what I heard, and it was from the opposition of the neighborhood, that the owner decided to withdraw the application for the easement to his title. So there's a company called Cypress Land Management, and they're the agent for Rogers. And their basically job is to be kind of real estate brokers. And they go around and they try to find places where they can lease a chunk of land, to build, to get an easement on your title and to build these 100-foot towers. Um, Now, you might ask why they have to be 100 feet tall. They have to be 100 feet tall because 5G is so brittle and fragile that it has to be line of sight. I mean, you will have a signal interruption in the pouring rain. You'll have a signal interruption if tree branches go across. So that's why they have to be 100 feet up, and they're extremely ugly. But notwithstanding that, these people are being paid 2,000 a month to stick an antenna on their land, and that's a lot of money, for some of these people who are farmers. Well, what happened was, I was contacted by a neighbor of one of the farmers who had acreage that was going to allow the tower to be built, and he was really freaked out about it. The neighbor was freaked out. So he contacted me and said, "What can I possibly do to get this stopped?" And I said, "Give me overnight to make a video." And so I made a video, and he showed the video to the landowner. And this is a Sikh farmer, who then saw it, showed it to his father. They're going to City Hall, I believe, in the next couple of days to put in their paperwork to withdraw the application for the title easement. So that's one tower down. And we're planning on getting all of the Sikh farmers together so that we can explain, the deleterious effects of having this massive 100-foot tower beaming out 5G. And by the way, Cypress Land Management did verify that the new tower that's going up in Lake Country and that one that was, meant for, I think it was the Rutland area, was going to be future retrofitted for 5G. So though the news articles say this is a 4G antenna, it's going to be the true, and we have all the 4G antennas we need, don't we?
Oh,
I
we
mean,
do.
have you?
We do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Between here and Vernon, I get one spot on the road where it kind of blips out,
Yeah, but
but
at least they're not lying, Gary, because they're going to tell you that it's a 4G tower, and they'll leave it 4G for a week. Then they'll make it a 5G tower, and that's how corporations work. Corporations do not have a beating heart, they do not have emotion, and they do not consider any of their decisions in a human response. They don't do it. Now, I want to ask you a question. So, where do people go? Where's your website or your YouTube where people can go and see the videos and they can keep up on what's going on, whether they live in Kelowna or not?
well, I think you can just go to YouTube and just type my name in 5G
Yeah,
or something like that, and you'll find it. I don't. th- I didn't enter this arena until May 28th, so I'm completely new to this.
right.
Um, I've now done webcasts in Australia and Portugal, and I guess it's helpful that I explain in layman's terms these complex, controversial topics about whether 5G is, because people say, the minute you say I'm anti 5G, then all of a sudden you're boxed off. Like, I don't want to hear more because you're one of those.
Well, I'm not
And I
anti
think,
5G. I'm anti. All the research has been done. I just had Magda Havas, okay, and she's one of the top people in Canada, or if not the top, in studying 5G. And when we did the show, she said that the only benefit is to market people for their money, to communicate faster, and just that's it. And also, she said there's a lot of benefits that would help hospitals maybe because it can sterilize children just at 5G in a school. It'll cause eye damage. It'll
right.
cause bacterial damage throughout the system. It'll even ruin your digestive tract. It'll actually disturb and do neurological damage. And that's why they're saying that neurological disorders. This is what top people are saying, not me, but actual scientists are saying neurological disorders are going to outrank cancer. They're going to outrank heart disease within the next few years because 5G will be that tipping point.
Well, actually, what they found was neurological disorders were actually the cause of cancer and heart disease and glucose sensitivity. I don't know if you've read the book Invisible Rainbow, but it talks about the
Yes.
mechanisms at the cellular level at why the mitochondria can't pick up the extra glucose or why the heme in the blood can't bind to the oxygen because of this millimeter wave interruption with these cellular processes. So, but the main, and that disease is called neurasthenia. So neurasthenia actually envelopes cardiac disease, depression, respiratory problems. These people don't need ventilators. The reason why they're gasping is because their heme in the in the
Hemoglobin.
blood cells,
Yeah.
yeah, can't pick up the oxygen. It can't process it. So they're like, can't get enough air. Like if they're in extremely high altitude, they're acting like that, but that's just because they've been radiated, you know? So, but further to your point about what's the value proposition in 5G, the main ones are this. And by the way, people are like, why are you so happy when you're finding? I'm happy because this is never going to work. And I'll tell you why. 5G's value proposition is that we can have driverless cars and remote surgery. Now, all it's going to take is for one downpour to interrupt the signal and send a Tesla into a corner Starbucks before they ground all of the driverless cars. You know, you had two Boeing 737 Maxes grounded after two crashes. Can you imagine a driver? Do you want to be on a highway with driverless cars or walking down a sidewalk when, you know, or remote surgeries? I mean, some kid could hack into that. You know, this doctor is doing brain surgery by Zoom meeting, you know, and some kid hacks into it and just decides to slash someone's brain. That'll be end of that forever, you know. So when you're saying, I don't think there's an evil component to this. I think that there was a big promise of a gold rush. I think that they got a lot of very heavy institutional investors to buy into this, to, you know, to make a fortune because everyone wants bigger, better, faster. Not really true when you hit like where we are now. Do you need to swipe left or right on Tinder faster? No. So the only thing that we're going to get is self-driving cars and remote surgery, which, and I think if you know how brittle 5G is, they first did the rollout in South Korea and it broke. Like they said, oh, we're so sorry that it broke. That was in April. And then by October, Wuhan said, we're going to be a pilot city. We're going to, you know, what does pilot city mean? It means guinea pig. We're going to crank that voltage up and see how many people have a hard time breathing. The North American component of that was Kelowna, British Columbia. We have to wonder why Bonnie Henry keeps saying downtown Kelowna in her press releases. When the gathering places that they were talking about, one was Gyro Beach, which, as you know, is maybe 8 kilometers away from downtown. One was Pace Spin Studio, which is, I think, 6 kilometers away. It's down by the Technology Center, the landmark buildings. Discovery Bay. The only one out of I think the 5 places they mentioned was Cactus Club downtown. That was it. They don't need to say downtown. So, being the science fiction writer, would it make sense to make a guinea pig area and then make announcements that we had a breakout of coronavirus? I mean, you're in medicine. Is 8 people with positive testing, is that really a breakout? Is that even newsworthy? Um,
And you know
but
what?
would it?
When they did that, Gary, you know that the downtown just plummeted right away. You know,
Oh,
I
it's
went
a
to see
ghost.
Petro, and he said, "Oh my God, there was like 6 or 8 people, and they had coronavirus, and boom! As soon as it hit the news, it just cleared everybody out."
Right. You know, if I were to write
Fear
this as a
factor.
James,
That's the fear factor.
yeah, but also doesn't it make sense to kind of have a pre-excuse as to why people are showing up having coronavirus? Because we're cranking it up to see how much they'll take. You said yourself earlier in the show that they haven't done any studies. They haven't done any studies. They don't know how much torture people can take. But if you isolate them in a single block and then observe them, it's been called a surveillance system, observe them as you're cranking up the voltage, then you start to get some data points. Okay, well, we saw people over 50 keel over at 2,000. We had one 30-year-old fall at 3,000. I'm just making this up
I
completely,
know.
but it makes sense in a Dr. Evil kind of a universe.
So
Um,
I just want to make it clear too that I don't believe that people are evil, but I believe the corporations don't have a lot of feeling, because if this was not a corporate issue, then we wouldn't be zapping people like this. Especially when the trade-off, it doesn't make any sense why we're trading human health for a faster speed.
right. Yeah, that makes no sense.
No, especially
So,
when 4G did everything we ever needed and more. Yeah.
yeah, or CDMA and 3G. I don't remember. I mean, until we started to watch YouTubes on our, phone or whatever, or Instagram came up and we were watching videos of people. I don't remember any of those being that all that bad. And I truly think what's going to happen is that when people start to see this going on, they're simply going to just turn off their 5G. When they start to hear, how fast these things can spread. I mean, the fear and the paranoia around coronavirus spread, especially for the second lockdown, in no time. It was
Yeah.
just, oh, we'll let them out for a holiday weekend, and then we're going to tell everyone we've got a huge, spike in increases. Never mind that the mortality rate is now nearing zero. On
Yeah.
CNN, you saw New York City has its worst spike ever. Then the line underneath it, first day ever of zero mortalities. This virus is burning out.
Yeah, it is.
We know how. Yeah.
Well, it's a cold, anyways. But so I really believe, and I do. I mean, I know that people in the Okanagan Valley value their outdoor life, and they value a healthier life. So I don't think that they're really going to put up with it. And I think that we're a small enough community that the word's going to get out, and the word's going to get out. And I think that there are a lot of very caring people in this valley. So
I love it
I
here. Yeah.
that's what it's going to take. A strong community is going to be worried about their immunity. So you know what, and we need to band together and be strong. If I can say something, this hasn't got to do with Kelowna, but did you know that Russia has just decided they are going to pull 5G out of all schools? Now think about that. Now
And the wife.
that's a big step.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
So
And
I,
that's another
I
data point that you can use in arguments for why maybe we should just wait. I'm not saying kill it. I'm not even saying that 5G will kill you. I'm just saying we don't know enough. Why don't we just wait?
Yeah. Why don't we just give it a chance? And isn't that what we do? Is we test the water, we stick our toe in, and why should we just go and just saturate ourselves with this? And then guess what? And I'll tell you something. Even those people that are in corporate positions that are saying 5G is not going to hurt anyone because they want their jobs, they're making money. I get it, but the reality, when it hits somebody in their family, let's see if they can still sing the same tune.
Yeah, and it's also history has shown that the corporations like to find a fall guy. If you look at the Aaron Brockovich case or California versus secondhand smoke, the way that this playbook goes out is that the vendor comes up with a environmental hazard, and then they offer it to the government to see if they'll put a rubber stamp on it. Then they'll offer it to the municipalities and see if the mayor will say okay to it. Now, bang, there's a class action lawsuit. People are losing their eyes. People are, dying. And there's a class action lawsuit. It'll happen much faster now than it did in Aaron Brockovich, because if you remember in the movie, she had a door knock and say, "Anybody sick here?" Now we got the internet, right?
Yeah.
So it'll happen. They just need to show the damage. But once they do, there will be a class action lawsuit. It'll be massive. And then what'll happen is Rogers or Verizon in North America, in United States, will say, "We're very sorry that our product had some safety issues. We gave it to the government to test. They rubber stamped it. We gave it to Colin Bazran, and he said okay. So we are not directly responsible. It was Bazran who okayed it." What happens is these companies find one fall guy the vulnerable guy who they can say, hey, you know what, we can do this for your city or you personally, um, not knowing that that is their escape hatch
Well, I
because they
definitely.
can just
But here's the
open
other
the
thing:
spigot.
people are going to be going to the hospital, and they're going to go down as coronavirus with this, right? So that's
Right.
also the plot too, right? So you've got the breathing problems. You've got the signs of coronavirus because they've been lining up the symptoms with that. So for the first while, it could take a year or two because people will just keep going in and they're going to just be down as coronavirus.
Shouldn't take that long. You can already see that they did it in Wuhan, and Wuhan was just a very interesting thing. It wasn't that long. They opened it up, I think, in October, and by January they reported the outbreak. So it was kind of a silly way that they did the outbreak. You saw news clips of these people wearing hazmat suits and they're spraying disinfectant, walking up and down the street like a Ghostbusters squad. It was hilarious. These kind of displays are really, it reminds me of 50s propaganda.
Yeah, but
And
Gary, you wake up. You're already awake. What about the people that aren't awake? There's people that only have one. They don't have neutral. They don't have drive. They don't have reverse. They only have fear. So that's it. They're just. So somebody who's fearful, they don't think. When you're in a fear state, you shut your immune system down and you shut your brain down,
it's
and that's
horrible.
okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely horrible. And my thing is I mean, I talked to people personally. This guy said, "Oh my, the outside of my cornea is falling apart," and I have to. People wonder why I'm so enthusiastic. It's because I know this isn't going to work. I mean, and the people who are involved in doing this are going to go to jail. I mean, I even told, at the chambers in City Hall, I said, Colin Bazran's the fall guy. This will follow him. They have criminal prosecution for, willful negligence when it comes to health,
Yeah, they do.
getting sick. So
Let's
I don't
talk
know.
about. Have you had any repercussions with even just what you've done so far, or nothing?
No, not at all. And I think the reason that is because I like to keep my issues to stick to a single topic.
Yeah.
So the last video was just about the antenna in Lake Country. The video before that was about this freaking spike I got on my EMF meter. So I like to keep it non-accusatory. Um, I don't like to get people riled up. I'd rather have them calm down. So that if the emotions aren't involved, people,
Think better.
when you started to figure this out, it wasn't because someone screamed at you, grabbed
No.
you by the collar, and said, "Wake the hell up! Why are you so stupid?" That didn't happen. On your own, you started to go, "That's weird that they would block off Bernard when they said it was about traffic. Huh, I wonder what that's about." It was a little by little kind of thing where then all of a sudden you peeked past the curtain. Once you saw past the curtain, you could see everything. And I think you'll find that, barring the anger that we have that people could be so mean to others, you're pretty calm about the future, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I
Most of
am
us, yeah,
because
most of us,
it's going to
yes,
turn out okay. I just don't want families to be hurt. That's it.
they're going to be hurt, and that's what's going to get this to stop.
Yeah, I know that.
Um,
That's the bad
yeah,
part,
so
though.
yeah, that's the bad part. But unfortunately, it's the families that really think this is all nonsense that are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
They're going to be the ones wearing the masks and living in paranoia, just weakening their immune systems because of the fear. I mean, what anxiety does to the body.
It eats
It's
up your nervous system, your organs. It drains you of
right,
all your energy. It leaves you open to parasitical attack. And if you
right.
then come near any 5G, you have no barrier and it'll take you down fast.
Right. And on the way that you're starting to get sick or feel worse or feeling more negative, now you have more reasons to feel sad and sick and depressed.
Yeah.
I can't go to work. I try to get out of my bed and my head's spinning. I get this ringing in my ear. So it's a downward vortex. If you see the larger picture and how all the pieces fit together, and the bottom line I have to just tell everybody is that 5G will never work. The radios are so brittle and fragile. You just yell boo to them and they'll frizz out. The reason why there's so many that are being deployed in a rush, I might add, is because they have a lot of people who've invested money that want to get their money back. So let's get these extra $80 per month for 5G on their phones, but they're going to be sorely surprised that there's not going to be a lot of people paying that extra $80. So they're going to say, special, $40. Well, whack, there goes their PowerPoint presentation with, profit projections, and then it goes down from there. But once there's no money in it, then people will go find their other opportunity. People are businessmen. They're hired because they're supposed to look for opportunities for growth.
That's right.
Growth and profit. That's their job. I get it. So, can't blame them.
Nope.
But it's not going to work. It's not going to work with 5G. And that's why I'm so thrilled,
So what is your strategy? What's your strategy then to help to slow things, stop things, or are you just going to sit back and wait, or what are you going to do?
Oh, well, first of all, I typically do like to sit back and wait.
Yeah.
That's my style. If you jump into things too quick, I'd rather be the last guy on board. This is interesting. I was in Tokyo and they took me to a fugu restaurant and they said, oh, this is a certificate, for blowfish. The chef knows how to not kill you by not cutting the wrong part of the blowfish. It's a toxic fish if it's cut wrong. So I said, that's fine. And everyone sat and watched while I didn't eat. And they said, why aren't you eating? And I said, because you're testing all the food for me,
Yeah.
That's my test. So I would rather wait rather than try to put together a proactive response. People ask me, should we picket? Should we sign petitions? I say, let's just let the vulnerabilities, more and more surface. And what I found is looking at history, in things like Aaron Brockovich or California versus tobacco, which were huge monsters that no one thought they could put down. Tobacco industry was like the #1 lobby in the United States. It was ridiculous how powerful it had politically in influence. But there's one thing that everyone can do. When you write a letter to the mayor, remember, I'm not saying city council. I'm not saying, I'm just saying the mayor, because the mayor has the on-off switch. He can say, I'm the mayor. I've heard a lot of people get sick. I can say, why don't we hold off? Every letter that goes to the mayor becomes public record. And so when you say, I don't consent to this, I voted for you, all these other things. I mean, he has a fiduciary duty to take care of our health and our industry. We didn't ask him to check our trash collection patterns. That wasn't why we voted him in. Actually, we voted him in because there were more Colin Bazran lawn signs on Harvey than there was for Sharon Shepherd. And I think they were a better color. And that's how much Kelowna didn't give a rat's about the mayor's office until now. And now it's like I go around. Now, maybe it's just because it's me, but it's almost like there's not a day where someone doesn't say, we got to get that guy out of office. We got to get him to resign. I've never heard that before. We're sleepy little Kelowna, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would just say, just write letters to the officials. I have them on my YouTubes. I've actually made templates that you can just copy and paste and send. And the more that the voters show their opposition, the more that the politicians have to listen to their bosses, who are the voters. So that's the strategy. It could change later, but
and the deal is that you're not going to run away. You can't run away from 5G. You got to kind of, stay here and then try to see if we can make and keep this place as beautiful as it is.
I have every bit of confidence that we're going to restore beauty, and Mother Earth has a consciousness that is vast. She's not going to let this thing happen. She probably works in mysterious ways, but it's not going to let a virus on top of the land destroy it.
Yeah.
It's just too smart for that.
Well, yeah. And I just hope that people do a quicker wake up than usual, because, the sooner that we have enough people waking up to this will be the time that somebody's able to flick the switch off.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's going to be that phase where people will die and they'll blame it on coronavirus. And there will be that phase where, people will be all sad because they're having Zoom meetings for funerals and things like that. And then they'll just have had enough.
Yeah.
They'll go, maybe I will listen. It just has to hit a tipping point. All these things that tobacco, gosh, 20, 30 years it was promoted as healthy. Take a healthy pause. And then after that, the best they could do is put warning labels on the boxes. Well, that didn't help a lot until it was illegal to do it in enclosed spaces. Then that's when you don't see people smoking anymore. So that took 50 years. Now it'll be much faster here because all we need is one driverless car to crash. Truthfully, I don't think that they're ever going to roll out the driverless car. I think that's the reason to goose your thing up to 5G. I don't think there's ever going to be remote surgery. Look, if I need brain surgery, I'll fly to you. I'll climb to you if you're on the top of Everest. I don't want you to be, okay, modems, we just set up the Zoom call, right? Your technician had to check all this stuff. It's like, okay, doctor. I mean, I just don't see that ever happening, ever. You know, brain surgery is a rare thing. You can fly to the doctor can fly to you. It makes no sense. We don't need that. Our population's not growing that fast. Maybe we will need a lot more brain surgery because of the damage of microwave radiation. And maybe that's why they'll be lining up in virtual clinics, at
Well,
malls.
the problem is
Brain surgery.
the problem is that we just don't question. We don't question it. We think that every technological breakthrough is a breakthrough. It's not a breakthrough. It might even cause us to break down if we don't watch it. Let's not take away the human experience. Let's not take away being human. Something that in the future we feel like we should just throw to the side. Between Elon Musk and Bill Gates, and let's just replace everything human.
That's true, but things are really falling apart for those guys. I mean, let's just think about January. You just thought of Bill Gates as the retired billionaire. You had no idea of what controversies could come up or what clips could surface. You
Yeah.
had no idea about Elon Musk and his 20,000 satellites but once you start to kind of think that, people didn't think about 5G. So in just the short time, now I've always said, what they should have done in the lockdown is they should have turned off the internet. So you put the world population inside their homes with nothing to do but look stuff up on Google, man, you've got a liberated society. That's the one thing that they shouldn't have done. They didn't know how this was going to pan out. That's why they did the simulation. You remember the one, right? The pandemic simulation in
Yes.
October.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why they did that, because they wanted to see the comments that would follow. I mean, it was spectacularly exactly like what we're seeing today. Um, the thing is they don't know how the public's going to act, which is why they have platforms like, the Facebook that say, let's put an overlay on it and say, tears for whatever last thing or Blackout Tuesday. They want to see how much people will fall into line, with everything else. I mean, I had so much fun on Instagram because I didn't do the black square until a week and a half later. And I got all these comments like, Gary, where you been? You passed that phase. And I'm like, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Prejudice is not on a single Tuesday, right? But so they're using these things as litmus tests for society. Let's separate the sheeple from the
Pavlov's
ones.
dog, right? Pavlov's
That's right.
dog. That's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's all once you see the whole thing, and if I can be of any help to this, I see everything clearly in a very optimistic way.
So do I.
I don't see,
So do I.
yeah, I don't see ooh, Bill Gates is a real big bad guy. I think that he's a very awkward person speaking, which is why he talked like this, and he has these weird that just don't actually match. The reason that he says things like population reduction is because he's so poor at giving presentations, but he has given them to a lot of investor groups. And so he blurts out the thing that he's been taught to say, which is population reduction. So um,
Well,
He's
his father was the head of it. So I mean, he's programmed and he lived with it and he believes in it. So that
sure.
is not just a blurb for him. That's in his program.
Right, right. And he's not comfortable speaking in front of crowds. So
No.
you go back to your, silly things, right? So, all of that is just, it's really fun to watch when we think about, nobody knew about Celine Maxwell or whatever her name is. Nobody knew about any of these things at all. Child trafficking was not a topic that anybody really thought about. But you lock people up for a couple of months and their computers, they find the one thing that connects to another dot that connects to another dot, and now you've got an uprising. They didn't think about that. So
Yeah.
it's just not going to work. You can see if you're a student of history, if you're a student of sociology, if you're a student of interpersonal reactions, you'll see that this is not going to, and it's so poorly thought out and rushed. There's actually two factions, and I know this because I have someone communicating to me from the inside, um, and they're fighting each other. There's two groups in this rollout. One is we got to hurry this up, and there's another group that says we're too close to losing everything. Let's just give it another 50 years. There's two groups, and they're arguing, and there's a power struggle and everything like that in trying to get these things rolled out. So, you know, you've got greed, and then you've got people who, there's greed and risk, right, in any venture. So you say, oh, well, here's our opportunity, but now here's our risk. We could lose everything if we get caught. Someone
Yeah.
already hacked into all the emails, Microsoft and CDC and WHO. Um, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be surfacing.
Yeah, there
So that's
is.
a rush.
But at the bottom of this thing, I think we both have the same feeling is that, I'm not anti anything. I'm pro health. So, if something is prove to me that something isn't going to harm people, because that's what I'm in. I'm in the business of helping people stay healthy. So the
Right.
reality is I'm not out to be the rebel to attack things. I want to see that something isn't going to harm human beings. We've got enough sickness. 92% of the population has an autoimmune disease. Okay. And
We're
believe it or not, it's now over 60% of children have a chronic illness. So the reality is I think we need to slow down and make sure that a technological breakthrough isn't going to cause a breakdown for us.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's existing, hazards right now with microwave radiation. So, and being more mindful of 5G, I think will get us to curtail our use of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, you know, 4G. I
Blue
think that
light,
we're
blue
beginning.
light. You take blue light and 5G together, and yeah, that's not a good mix.
Right, exactly. So I think that's getting us more mindful. I mean, this is all incredibly, I know on a day to day basis, it's very hard for people to suffer the second lockdown and everything like that. But this is all just a cleansing process. This is all just, I feel like it's an enlightenment opportunity to get rid of a lot of the things in the system that were systematically meant to hurt us for profit. You've seen GMOs, you've seen Roundup, you've seen tobacco, you've seen,
Vaccinations.
yeah, exactly. Vaccinations, right. Or, Depo-Provera or
Yeah.
whatever, all of those things were the same thing. It's like, we can make money doing this.
Yeah.
So put it out there. Aspartame, well, it didn't do a lot of testing. Okay, well, still, we'll test in long-term retail study. It's kind of funny. That it's the same pattern. Once we find out that there's a machine that works like that, then and we call the machine to the table, then the machine will start to go, hey, they come in with a weaker bargaining power, I think, in a situation like that. And that to me is very fun, because
Yeah.
now they're not the Harvey Weinstein in the room. Harvey Weinstein, when he walked into a boardroom 3 years ago, holy smokes, you sat up and stood at attention. He walks in now and you throw a tomato at him. See, so it just requires a tarnishing of the reputation, and then
You're right,
we'll all be
but the reality is that I really believe that parents need to become the protectors of their children, and to stop thinking that the government or any corporation is even looking at that right now. So parents have to be more selective about what they buy, what they do, because really, I think we have
And
to.
who they listen to, who they
Yeah,
listen to.
yeah.
Yeah,
Whoever you listen to is your leader. So that's
that's
it.
right.
So, yeah,
Right. Right. That's the important thing is who do you trust?
yeah.
And, when you say, oh, it's Dr. Fauci because he's the leading, or, Bonnie Henry because she's the leading expert and she's a medical doctor.
Who
Okay.
says? Who said that? That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Right. Right. And you can always find a doctor that'll work with you in a high position in government. You look at the Surgeon General of the United States, right? I think he just graduated high school when I looked at him last. It's just funny. You'll always find the doctor who will then say certain things because it's part of the story. But we're all getting very wise to it. I'm sure you've never seen such an outrage over anything like this before, and then it expands. It goes past 5G into vaccinations or coronavirus or the shutdowns or mask wearing or whatever. Everything's up for question now, which is a wonderful thing. Let's talk about this.
yeah,
Unfortunately, they're split into two groups and they won't talk to each other. So, each group is kind of rising. And in situations like this, one group has to gain all the momentum and the other group has to begrudgingly say, my God, that was really weird. Friend whose dad died at 92, and he died of a heart attack while eating dinner. And the doctors were saying, well, did he have a fever? No. Did he have chest pain? Yeah, he had a heart attack. Okay. Was he having a hard time breathing? Well, he grabbed his chest while he was dying of a heart attack. He said, okay, so that is a respiratory problem. So that is a symptom of coronavirus. And he said he was healthy. He didn't have coronavirus. And they said, okay, let me put it to you this way. If you don't check this box and people process his body and they don't wear PEP and they get sick, you're responsible. So all you need to do is check this box and you'll be liability free. And he wouldn't do it. He's like, no, because he didn't die of coronavirus. So you wonder like where these numbers come up, and when it happens to a friend of yours who then, because people trust the news or they don't trust the news. It's not really a gray area in between. You don't trust some of the news, right? But when it happens to a friend of yours, then you kind of go, that was kind of weird. Wonder why that happened. And then, with you, once there was a crack in the dam, the floodgates opened.
yeah.
That's looking past the curtain, being brought into the light, the clouds parting, whatever you want to call it. It's the minute that you see the one thing that makes that person untrustworthy. It's like a spouse checking the husband's phone or whatever. It's like,
Well,
oh, that's.
I'll tell you something. It's like this. I'll tell everybody watching this that you better check your hospital, because a lot of hospitals, when you check in, whether it's a broken leg, whether it's just high blood pressure, a lot of hospitals have been marking down COVID, and then they leave it up to the doctor to come back later. And what if the doctor's too tired? What if he doesn't do it and he doesn't take off the COVID? What if he doesn't do it? Then it goes up as COVID. Now,
Right.
whether you want to believe this or not, is it an accident? Is it an oversight? Yeah, it probably is. But why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? So then that's what makes people think. But people aren't thinking yet. But they will think, because the more pain, the more suffering they see in their personal life and in their families or in their friends, it'll take time, like you said.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, spreading the awareness will speed that up. Um, there was the governor of Illinois' press conference when they asked him about the teenager who died of COVID, and they asked for specifics, and he gave them the podium to his medical doctor official, and she sang like a canary. She said, even, the rules for COVID deaths are simple. If you had coronavirus symptoms and you died, you're marked as a coronavirus death. And she could have stopped it there, but she kept going on. It was like going to confession, and she's talking in the booth. She said, even if you were in hospice, have you seen this video?
No, I
It's
didn't.
phenomenal. I really need to put it up on YouTube. Even if you were in hospice and you were to die in 2 weeks, but you showed coronavirus, we would mark that as a coronavirus death. And even with that, we have New York coming in with zero fatalities, showing that a virus burns out as it does. You know that these power transmission lines are extremely, the magnetic field around is extremely harmful to birds. And yet, why are there so many birds that sit on a power line? Well, that's because those are the birds that aren't sensitive. That's how viruses burn out. Those that are not equipped to make it through, they call it, herd immunity. But those that can't make it to the next generation, they fall off the wire. Um, I think you probably know that it has to do with the amount of porphyrons that they have in their system, um, that makes them sensitive to electromagnetic exposure. But the viruses burn out. They just
But
the way the virus works.
viruses are also just a natural part of life. Everybody has them. We never not have them.
Viruses are also just RNA shedding.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's what happens in electromagnetic exposure, is that these things come in and they goof with our protein reproduction or whatever, and the body goes, "What is this wacky chunk of RNA? Let's wrap it up in a lipid capsule, throw it out into the bloodstream," and then human beings start coughing or sneezing or
Got to get it out, but you got to get it
that,
out. You can't keep it in there, and that's what that's about.
right, right. When you see things like, oh, there was a tiger at the Brooklyn Zoo who was detected with COVID, I was just being funny. I said, wow, that's weird. This was early, and I said, that's weird that we don't have enough testing kits for human beings, but we're testing, tigers in a zoo. Did they test the boa constrictor? Did they test the 100-year-old, tortoise?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just asking, how did they know that the tiger had it? And they said, oh, it started having a really bad coughing attack.
Yeah, and
And I said,
who did the swab?
I was like, I have been to Ringling Brothers Circus. I've seen a polar bear ride a bicycle. I've never seen a cat have a coughing attack, unless it's coughing up for a fur ball.
Yeah.
So it's just, put your common sense hat on. Really? A cat started having a coughing attack? So then they decided to swab it? It's just so comical, right?
I
So
think what we should do is I think we should come back in about 8 weeks and see where we sit. What do you think?
I think so. I think that there will be a lot more suspicion. I think that there will be a lot more things that come to light. I think that we're going to find, United States has already announced that they're not going to open in fall for schools, which is so devastating for the single mothers who, can you imagine, right? Having to teach their kids while trying to make a living, but they're able to work because they can drop their kids off at school. This is tremendously horrible. And you're a doctor, so you understand how these contact transmission works. If you've got a population, and here comes a guy with a cooties, he's called patient zero, and he infects the population, we can always contact trace back to patient zero. But if you have a guy with cooties coming in, like say from Wuhan, China, you don't shut off the entire population, and you just keep that one guy out. Now, here's the worst part. You take the July 4 weekend, you let everybody out. So, and they had already, CDC said there were already over 1 million cases of infections. So those people went out, picked up fruit in the produce section, put it back down, masks came off and everything like that. The infection has already spread. Everyone who had the cooties gave the cooties to someone else. To then say, oh, we've got more people with outbreak, we're going to lock you all back in. How does that work? You're already out. You're going to lock everybody in. It's just going to wreak havoc on people's immune systems.
Yeah, but Gary, you know what? The whole thing is just a charade. That's all. Like for me, it's really hard for me to even discuss it with all the research and all. I have a lot of people. I have friends that are real scientists and real doctors that have done the research. So the reality for me is it's very difficult because the platform, when a platform is built on a lie, then you go and you follow everything. Well, how can you make sense of anything? There's absolutely nothing making sense of anything because young children are not getting sick because of this. You know, I've played lots of videos where even if the kids went back to school, they would have to be the 6 foot rule, even outside when
Oh,
they're
it's horrible.
playing, when they're eating. So no, this got nothing to do with COVID. So it's got to do with COVID because COVID stands for Certificate of Vaccination ID, and 19, and the 19 stands for, the one is an A and the 9 is an I, which means artificial intelligence. And it's all about a whole bigger thing. And you know what? I think this rabbit hole goes so deep because they've been plotting this for so long that even the most intelligent minds are like, you know, are you like kidding? So you're over here, you're over there, you're up here, you're down here. So let's just keep putting out this BS, dysfunctional belief systems that nobody can handle, and everybody just throws their hands up in the air and goes, whatever. Okay, whatever they say, because I don't know. I'm just so confused.
And my thing is to take one victory at a time.
Yeah,
I've
you have to.
helped take I've helped take down a single cell tower. And once you do that, then certain people will wake up because of that. I can't just all of a sudden go out there and say, "Oh my God, there's this new world order thing," and that's just too overwhelming. It puts me in a container, in a category of a, conspiracy theorist and all that. All I can say is, look, we got a problem. We have a tower that's going to go in, and it hasn't been very well reviewed for health effects. So why don't we just put that on pause
That's
and
right.
just take one little tiny thing at a time, and focus on the process. And one thing I learned in working in emergency rooms, I had a really good friend who was a ER doctor, and came in, and we had four gurneys, and they were all touch and go. We had literally just him and one treatment room and one OR. And I looked at him, and he just looked around. He says, "Okay, that one's going to Harbor, UCLA. That one's going to Long Beach. That one's." He was putting them out by distance because he couldn't do it. And then we just went in and took the most critical patient and treated him afterwards. He saved all four. And I was like going, "Bruce, how the hell were you so calm with four people's lives in your hand, literally, about to die, and you didn't break out in a sweat?" And he said, "You know what? As an emergency physician, I'm learned to focus on the process, not the outcome. When I'm doing the suture, it's one needle at a time, one needle at a time. And that's all I can do. Is all I can do is what I can do, and I can't think about the outcome. I can only think about the process." And so, if our goal is to make sure that one 30-meter tower does not irradiate all the neighbors around it for the next couple decades, generation, we take down that tower. And that's all we can do right
One
now,
step at a time, Gary.
one step at a time, and focus on the process and be
Yes.
patient.
Yeah.
Don't think about the outcome. Just be patient,
Yeah.
and and
Be
know that
pa-
it'll all work
Yep.
out.
Be patient. Be confident in the process. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. It's a awakening to staying in the present moment.
Absolutely. That's what COVID did for us. It really did. All of us were on deadlines. We had to meet a quota, or we were trying to up this quarter's projections and all that. And when this thing happened, bang, I'm inside and I'm learning to cook for my kids. And they go, "Wow, Dad made spaghetti," and things like that. Or I'm looking out my window and I can see the beautiful trees. And it really made us focus on the present moment. And it gave a beautiful gift to Mother Earth. Every cruise ship puts out 60 tons of fuel per hour. And then, not to mention the waste that it dumps in international waters. The cruise ship doesn't pull up and you have all these garbage trucks lining up, and all these, septic collection trucks. That doesn't happen. They open the poop chute, and it all goes out in the ocean. Thousands of people in the middle of international waters. Well, that all got grounded with all this. So how is this not a positive thing? Really, you know,
Yeah.
it just can't help. But let me tell you this: if I'm wrong and we're all going to shit, at least I believe today that we're not. And isn't my day right now better, because of it?
Well,
Say I have, 36 days left, and I choose to be, this is all going to work out. But meanwhile, God, look at that gorgeous forest out there. Or I could have been on CNN all day long and, oh, I've got to like make sure that I disinfect. And oh, my mask is, oh, I'm taking a bath, but my mask is loose. There are people like that. And they're going to leave the earth and that being their last days. And maybe it's just better to be enthusiastic.
It's better to be in the present moment, connected to your breath with a slight smile on your face, and focus on only what you want to see and enjoy
Exactly.
every breath and every moment of your life, and that is it. And you know
Right.
what? This show is not about fear. This show is not about being a rebel. This show is about just living to your God-given potential, which is unlimited. That's it. What do you think,
That's
Gary?
right.
And
Right.
yeah,
And you can only ever own or possess one thing, and that's this exact moment.
yes, sir.
I can choose what to do with this moment. I can pick up my phone and look at CNN and go, oh my God, the numbers are rising.
Or you can choose to be happy and be with your children and be with your wife and be the light for your family, and that's why this show is here. And
Right.
Gary,
Or talk to you and feel good about,
that's right.
about all these things and bring the light to other people. So I'm glad that you have the show. This is awesome.
So what would you like to leave everybody with, Gary?
Well, without a doubt, 5G is not going to work. Without a doubt, coronavirus is going to burn out. GlaxoSmithKline, I think, just finished producing their 30 millionth dose of the vaccine, and they're trying to get it out. But each of those things probably cost about $6 to manufacture. There's a lot of mercury and baby tissue to fetal tissue to put in that thing.
Yeah.
Um, while the mortality is dropping. So all of these things, oh my God, I'm not going to be forced to vaccinate. You're not going to have to, because it's falling apart. And that's why they're in a mad rush to raise the fear level. And the thing that I'd like to leave people with is seeing the large picture. All these things that you think that are going to happen to you are never going to actually manifest in reality, because they themselves won't work. They won't. So knowing that, then just endure all the panic and childish behavior and all the screaming and yelling and shoving each other at grocery stores over wearing masks or not wearing masks. Just know that we'll look back and just go, huh, man, we bought that story hook, line, and sinker, but we won't be fooled again.
Thank
What
you.
a great future for us.
Thank you, Gary. So in a nutshell, I think it's right what you just said, and here's the deal, everybody. Fear is the pandemic. And if you can eliminate that fear and you can be in the present moment and just make really wise choices, what you eat, drink, think, and do, and be a human being, not a human doing, okay? And understand any decision that you make in fear, something's going to get broke.
Exactly. Right. Perfectly said.
Thank you, Gary, and we'll see you in about 8 weeks. And everybody else, we'll see you a lot because I have my weekly show and I do my Q&As on Monday. And for those who want to know that our personal treatment and trainings are now on the go again, you can come to see us and you can learn how to do the most powerful body work in the world. And I do mean that. Okay. And just know that you can take a look at my website at docofdetox.com and you can click on there and you can get yourself a perfect day consultation and learn how to protect yourself, protect your family. And you can go to Doc of Detox events and see what I've got coming up. And I will be doing courses in in Orlando, Florida in September. Full certification, 21 days. You can go to itioh.com, International Training Institute of Health, to see this. We'll be doing it at the 5-star resort at the Omni. And you can also come there, believe it or not, for treatment. So if you've always wanted to get rid of that cane, that walker, or you wanted to get rid of that limp, or you didn't want to go to surgery, understand something. It's a scar tissue issue. So you can either have them go in and cut out the scar tissue, or we can go in there and use Wolfe non-surgical, and we can open up the fibers, allow the blood, the lymph to flow, and we can actually turn it into beautiful connective tissue. And when they tell you you're bone on bone, they're not telling you the truth. The actual tissue has been calcified, and we can actually get the calcium back in the bones, and we can restore the joints, and we can restore the tissues and the organs. and I'll give you a money back guarantee, because we've given up on our bodies just like we've given up on ourselves, and we've got to take it back. So I'll be in Florida in Orlando in September. I'll be in Palm Springs in November. And I'll also be doing courses in Kelowna, British Columbia, beautiful British Columbia, where I live, Kelowna, where they'll be taking the 5G down just anytime soon. And also, we will be doing courses in Ixtapa in the new year, Ixtapa, Mexico, at the Ixtapa Palace World Training and Healing Center. And don't forget, everyone, if you want my information on the 12 most empowering steps, email me at quickstart@docofdetox.com. And then check your junk mail if you don't see it, because sometimes I might be thrown into the junk. That's about it. And I just know I have a Q&A every Monday. You can send your questions in even underneath, and we'll do our best to answer them. We're here to support you. I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, and also on docofdetoxshow.com. And when you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe below, and make sure you click on the bell to enable notifications so that you never miss a show. And all my Q&As, like the one we just did with Gary, okay, you'll be able to go right to YouTube in 24 hours after the show, and you'll be able to go right to the question that was asked, and you'll be able to get the answer if you don't want to watch the whole show, because we have busy lives. And if you want to download this show, you can download it off of iTunes, Spotify, or SoundCloud. Again, I want to thank my dear friend Gary and all my listeners who make this show possible. God bless everyone, and understand something. Let's cut the power to 5G, and let's take our own power back. 3, 2, 1. Together, teamwork makes the dream work. We got this. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.